Coach, you're usually a pretty upbeat guy. How do you feel going into this season?
I feel great about our team. I think everybody's going to say the same thing. I
Right.
don't think many coaches are going to sit there and say, boy, I don't like my team. My team stinks. Nobody's going to say that. I really like this football team, though. The one thing I like about them the most is everybody loves football. And I think with all the changes in college football, getting all the attention, most of the transactional stuff's getting a lot of the attention, whether it's the TV deals, whether it's NIL or portal, salary caps, conference realignment. You still got to go out there, love football, play football, and go win football games. And this team's really, really connected.
Your eighth year with this program right now. How do you feel about where this build is at, and if there's anything you feel like you're still being held back by?
Yeah, I think you're always building. I think in my introductory press conference when I got the job, I talked about cultural sustainability. Our athletic director, Mark Coyle, myself, are the longest tenured AD head coach combination in the Big Ten. We're going on year 8.
Yeah,
I think that
that's
just
a lot.
shows the fluidity of our program, our profession. So when we talk about the sustainability part, I think fit is more important than ever now. And it's not just the recruiting piece, it's fit and selection. Again, with all the transactional stuff, you still have to be able to find the right fit, right type of kid that values all the right things for your program. And we have a life program that we call transformational. Well, the transformational world and the transactional world can coexist. We just had our best recruiting class that we've ever had. It'd be different if it was going the other way. And I promise you it wasn't because we were the highest bidder, but we're getting the right fit and the right selection and the right kid that fits our culture where, again, transformational and transaction can both coexist.
You brought up the continuity you have at the top, and like you said, in this conference, in the profession, that's just not guaranteed anymore. What kind of advantages does that give you guys having that continuity?
Well, it's all about alignment. People always talk about we're on the same page. One page has different words all over it in different ways. I'm talking about we're completely aligned. Mark Coyle and I share the exact same values. We both love Minnesota. And I think it's hard when we talk about that because it's okay to love where you're at. And it's okay to love Minnesota. And I think we both share that because we both have that same value system of what we want to create for a football program. And I think that's a great partnership.
The run game had a lot of success last year, and that wasn't even with a full season of a guy like Darius Taylor, who comes back to the bowl game, and what more needs to be said, over 200 rushing yards. What do you think it could do this year with him healthy and ready to roll, but also the depth you have in this backfield?
Yeah, I think the backfield is one thing, but I think it's helping the pass game as well. I think one thing that kind of stalemated even our run game as good as it was the lack of a pass game, and that's for a lot of different reasons. But that's why Max Bressler's there, and that's why we brought him in. We got a lot more depth at the wide receiver position, the tight end position. Our offensive line's all back. But when you look at Darius, he's a special player. But again, we want our players to be better people than they are players. Darius Taylor is a better person than he is a football player. Now, that's a pretty special individual because he's a pretty special player. But special people make themselves better players. And he's done that in the offseason. He's really committed to his body. I think as a true freshman, there's probably way too much put upon him. But you want to put that upon your best players. And one of your best players is a true freshman. We're going to do that. But I think he's learned how to take care of his body a lot better than he did last year, to be able to handle all those carries, play that longer of a season than he did in high school. And we built a lot of things around him, from whether it's pass game, run game. We've kind of built that whole thing around him.
I know this offense will look to spread the ball around, but is he the kind of running back that can lead this conference in rushing?
I do believe he can. Darius Taylor can lead any conference in rushing.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about him. Being at Minnesota, we've always been a little bit more run heavy than pass heavy. Now, we've also had 2 first-team all Big Ten wide receivers, only team to ever do that in 2019. But when you're talking about that actual run game for him, he is a workhorse. He is an absolute superstar, and he could lead any conference.
You mentioned Max Bressler coming in from New Hampshire. Ton of starting experience, ton of production. What does he single-handedly bring to the pass game with that experience and the ability?
Well, it's just the leadership piece that he has. We had a very specific role when we were looking at who we were going to bring in for quarterback, because we knew whoever we brought in was going to have to start. Okay, so that takes a very mature individual. Now, I could pull a lot of players and they'll be like, oh, I'd love that job. I'll take that job. But do you really want that job? Are you mature enough to handle it the minute you walk in, be accepted by the team, you be humble enough to be accepting others as well when you don't even know them, and then take the culture and run with it? And Max Bressler has done that. He's incredibly curious. I mean, leaders that are great leaders are usually really curious because they want to constantly grow. And he is definitely that way. He's constantly curious. And he is one of the smartest players I've ever been around. So we look forward to him being our quarterback.
Is that something you caught on to in the spring or even before you got him to Minnesota, that intelligence level?
Well, I think that when you get around him, it's not hard to figure out how smart he is and how curious he is. We identified his personality and his character as exactly what we were looking for. Did we have some other kids that were right in there? Yeah, but you rank them at that point, and then he was the one that we wanted. And in the portal with quarterbacks, you better work really fast because they go fast. And again, he didn't come to Minnesota because it was the highest bid. He didn't do that. He came because that's exactly what he was looking for. He looked for a culture, a transformational program where he could go in and play. Remember, he's only got 1 year left, so he can't waste it. And it was a perfect fit.
What is it like for the staff, the backfield, even Max, to have an anchor on the offensive line like Ariante Ursary, who for a while felt like he was going under the radar, and those days are long gone right now.
Yeah, I'm glad we kept him under the radar as long as we did, but he's a superstar. He really is, and he's gotten so much better. The funny thing about him is if you know the EA Sports new college football game, he's a top 25 player in that, and that's sneaky. Now, I also know if you move him to tight end, he becomes a 99. So he becomes one of the best players in the game. So just a hack, just so everybody knows that, which I don't play it, but I heard from somebody, from a friend. So, but he's grown up so much. And again, just like anything, we have 16 of 17 eligible returning starters back. And that doesn't get talked about enough. And it, again, wasn't because we were the highest bidder. Ariante Ursary fits our culture, our program, and he has developed leaps and bounds from the moment he walked in our program. And look forward to him leading that offensive line.
So 4 new teams in this conference. Feels like that's the big talk of town. It's exciting, but what kind of challenges does that bring, especially geographically?
Well, this year, I mean, I told our fan base when I got the job, I'd take him to the Rose Bowl.
You never lied.
I never lied.
That's right.
It's a different perspective, but I never lied. I really like it. Now we talk about who's the most powerful conference. It's not about that, but we talk about the 9 conference games. We're nationwide, east to west, west to east. There's parity within our league. Every week is going to be a fight. But I think it's really healthy as we continue to expand and change college football, especially for the fan base. There's nothing boring about this league, nothing. And now as we keep adding teams and added the 4 West Coast teams, it gives us a whole new market.
What does the expanded playoff do for your mindset? It feels like, I've been saying to people, it feels like it opens the door a little more. And I know everybody goes in saying we're going to be one of the best 4. But now as that opens up, does it change things a little bit mentally?
Of course it changes things. You know, everybody wants to be one of the 4. I think if you're not talking about being one of the 4 and you're in the Power 2 or the Power 4 or 5, whatever it used to be, then I think you're doing a disservice. We've always talked about that. Now, that's not our only focus, but we've talked about it. But I think it brings reality to a lot of teams. If you go back to 2019, we probably would have been in the college football playoff. I mean, that's huge for Minnesota. We've been there 7 years, and one of those 7 years, we have a chance to compete for a national title. I think that's what our fan base has always wanted. And now I think we have a little bit more parity that way, that if you can find your way into that top 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten and have a really good year, that you can be rewarded for that.
What is your favorite thing about coaching this program, Coach? As you said, you're a grizzled vet now in this conference, it feels like. Not a lot of coaches can say that.
Well, it's our state of Minnesota, our fans, where we live, the access to so many things with the city and the lakes, and you have it all in Minnesota. But it's really who I work for. I'm a big people person, and that's why Mark and I are so close. He allows me to be me. Think about that statement. I think the world is full of people trying to be somebody that they're not, and even our profession full of people that are trying to be a head coach, acting like a head coach. My boss, he allows me to be myself, and it's refreshing every single day, and I don't take it for granted.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, my pleasure. Row the boat, Sky Imago Gophers.